Hello. I wanted to carry on from the two-part panel discussion chaired by Keith Richardson, which we published a while back. And while I was watching that, it reminded me of a couple of things. One of these was what I used to do at the school I retired from a year or two back, was to take the newly elected head boy and head girl along to the first board meeting of the year. And I did that for a couple of reasons. I wanted the board to see the caliber of youngster that was coming through the school. I wanted the youngsters themselves to learn something from the pressure of sitting in a board meeting and answering questions from various high-powered people, because there were lawyers, there were engineers, there were entrepreneurs, there were businessmen, etc. on that board, obviously. And they were always kind to the head boy and the head girl. They always welcomed them. But there was always going to be a curveball question that would come their way during the course of that little interview. And sure as eggs, it happened. And the one board member said to them, okay, how would you define leadership? Now, that's a big question. With almost no pause whatsoever, the head girl, Rebecca, at all of 17 years old, said, I think leadership is about creating relationships in which neither party wants to let the other one down. Where neither party wants to let the other one down. And I thought to myself, I've got a B.Ed in educational management. I've got a diploma in educational management. I've been to WITS doing a leadership development course. I've got stacks and stacks of books, all on leadership. And she nailed the concept in that one sentence. There was a noise of jaws dropping around the room, and the children left. I went out with them and thanked them and congratulated them on their confidence and the way they presented themselves. And when I got back in, the board said, we're not needed here. If that's what we're producing in the school, we're actually superfluous. Successful all around, but that whole concept of it's about creating relationships. And if we take Keith's panel discussion about a healthy school culture, it's that's at the heart of it. Not rules, not regulation, not policy, not triplicate forms, relationships with people. The other thing that the panel discussion reminded me of was a gem that I picked up on a Stephen Covey course called Principled Leadership, some way back, I think in the mid-90s. I had the pleasure of attending that. And I'm going to show you a fairly complicated diagram, but I'll walk you through it, and hopefully it makes some sense to you. The purpose, I think, of my talk to you today is take this, use it, start a staff meeting with it, put it in front of your school management team, and use it as a stimulus to get people thinking about the school culture. So here we go. Let me start with the two axes. This vertical axis here, from 0 to 100, is a measure of the energy that I will contribute to an undertaking, to a team, to whatever the case may be, to an organization. The horizontal axis here is the way I perceive the organization or the relationship within that particular organization. And that's an important fact. I'll come back to that at the moment. But it goes from being very negative, adversarial, oppositional, difficult, nasty, toxic maybe, through a sort of neutral phase over here, through to a very positive phase over here. And that's the way I perceive the place that I'm in. The more negative I feel the organization is, the more oppositional I feel the place is, the more energy I am going to use simply to survive. I'll keep my head down. I will avoid confrontation. I will avoid making a contribution to anything. I will avoid any critical thought of anything. I will stay quiet, and I will absent myself if possible. The other thing that can happen if we're in this adversarial tone, or perceived adversarial tone, is that I could actually start acting negatively and destructively to the organization. The more positively I feel I'm supported within that organization, the more energy I am going to give to that organization, to its undertaking, and I will make a contribution, and I will offer an opinion, and I will be part of what is going on. It's a fairly simple diagram. It looks more complicated than it is, but it's such a key concept in the culture within an organization. And it stands for any kind of relationship where human beings are involved. It can be within a family. It could be a husband and wife. The more negative I feel it is, the more I'm going to clam up. It could be in a sports team. We all have children in schools who arrive and head off to a quiet little place by themselves because the happy school that we think we're running for them is actually quite a negative place. For me, I loved school generally, loved the subjects. When it came to mathematics and science, this is where I sat in each of those classes on a particular day. I didn't do well at them because I didn't engage with them, because I was scared to do so, because I just felt this is not a good place to be. It's fairly obvious. I think one of the things that you could do with your SMT, with your staff, is to be having a discussion about what is the state of your school. How is your school perceived by the people in it, by the teachers, by the parents, by the students themselves? Because I think schools really need to be happy places, because that's where maximum learning happens. Over there is where people will contribute, will contest things, will think critically, and grow from that entire experience. So to me, the big question is, as a school leader, how do you make your school move further along this axis and keep it there and sustain it? The thing about it, of course, is we're dealing with human beings, so it's not a static thing at all. It's quite dynamic. We can have good days, we can have bad days. Something happens within a school community that causes us to slip backwards here, or some members of the school community to slip back here. So as a school leader, it's about perception, and about listening, and about empathy, and about availability. How open is your door for a teacher to come and just tap and say, "You've got a couple of minutes for me?" Or for a student, even the smallest one, a grade 2, a grade 3, to knock on the door and say, "So I want to talk to you for a couple of minutes. Can you make yourself accessible?" I think things like integrity, what you see is what you get when you talk to me as the school leader. I think things like humor, perspective. I think things like empathy, as I've said. I think acknowledgement of achievement, acknowledgement of where someone is in their particular life at any particular stage. All of those will help take your school and the people in it along that axis towards where they will contribute more energy to the undertaking. Thank you.